good evening. Welcome to the CREEDCAST. Welcome to season 2026. It is time for Port Adelaide football. There's no more mucking around. It is Friday the 13th. Ooh, Friday the 13th. I would usually be watching a horror movie right now, but I am dedicated to the cause with my good friend Jamie to come in here on a Friday night and talk to you good people about our upcoming game against North Melbourne, round one in Melbourne on Sunday afternoon, 12:40 for us here in South Australia, obviously half an hour ahead over there for those in Melbourne that might be attending the game, and good luck to you out there if you are. Jamie, there's nothing else to talk about apart from an upcoming game in 2 days from, well, under 2 days from now. Good evening, mate. Are you as excited as I am?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm just relieved that we finally get to consume football. And hello to you. Hello to everyone else joining us. Hello. Said that a bit weird, but there you go.
G'day.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I want to watch some Port Adelaide football. We've been strung along. There's fresh faces. There's fresh coaches. There's fresh everything. But now it's just time to watch the football and let that do the talking.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what's amazing now is that we're finally at this point that Josh Carr gets to put his team on the park, which we're going to talk about in a moment. And so, as we talked about our best 23 episode, there's a fair bit of what we kind of thought would happen, maybe a few surprises and a few things that are kind of forced upon us based on the degree of health that some players are in. But we finally get to see Josh Carr's first ideation of what he wants to see on the field very, very soon. It is interesting you saying that we finally get to consume football ourselves, because it is funny with this, this experiment, for lack of a kind of, well, I could find worse terms, I could find kinder terms, but the round zero experiment, they've got, multiple teams now that have played 2 games of football. Hawthorn in the process of playing their second game as we speak. Obviously, Carlton last night. Before we've even played one, it's a real quirky start to the season, which I was, all for the teams last year, but the fact that it's starting to, it seems like it's just creeping closer and closer to just being fucking round one again.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what to think of it at this point, but yeah, it was a little brain kind of little track my brain was going down about how weird it is that there are teams that have played 2 games before some of us, both Port and the Kangaroos obviously are playing their first game on Sunday. So, have teams, it's just a weird way to start a season. Question without notice, but I'm just not, I don't know what the AFL is doing. Before we get into our teams, it's just like, I think it's really weird how the AFL seems to be just getting closer and closer back to just having a round one again anyway.
It's typical circus behaviour by the AFL, and for us cynical Australian rules football fans, we would expect nothing less, to be honest. Again, to be cynical, it's just another thing for us to talk about constantly. And I think the AFL's policy is any publicity is good publicity. That's the way they kind of come across as well. Seem to be a bit pig-headed with a lot of things that a lot of people seem to have fairly constructive criticism about, and that being one of them. Like you mentioned, we may get, it does seem likely that we'll get to a point where it is just around one, and they've just brought this season forward. For WA and SA, though, who share their grounds with the cricketing tenants, that's where some of the issue comes in for us in particular. And so it may just be an East Coast festival of football, for want of a better term. But I saw a graph the other day of someone who had taken the time to look at how many days or how many games it was until each team had their first bye, I think it was. And like the graph was all over the shop, and they were putting forward the case of one dedicated bye for every team, and then it all lines up perfectly. What would fairness be in an inequitable league?
Yeah.
It seems like a pipe dream at times.
Yeah, especially when anytime they try to do something that was actually at its core, like this round zero experiment was something to do something for the states that are outside the footy realm, and then 2 years into it, they just like bend over to Collingwood and let they
Well,
them
then it
do
was
what they
St
want.
Kilda's home game as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
wasn't even Collingwood's home game. Oh, they
yeah.
bent over to Collingwood not wanting to travel.
Exactly. Yeah. And then,
Yeah,
I guess I mean, it still ends up being any game that isn't sold out at the MCG means that a lot of Collingwood fans can go anyways. Um, I don't know what the crowd split was, but I'm sure there was plenty there. Don't think I watched much of that game. But yeah, that was in the midst of jet lag. I fell asleep and listened to
yeah.
most
I
of that
think it was
game.
in the 80,000s, which is what they were
Yeah.
hoping for. It just makes me laugh that people who get paid a lot of money to manage and be custodians of the game, as they like to proclaim, come up with these ideas and then almost immediately nuffies, people in the industry, whoever it may be, come up with better solutions. But the AFL, being the AFL, are like, nope, we've made this decision. We've paid a consultant $200,000 for this idea. And look, I think everyone's on the same page. We're all for northern exposure.
Mhm.
But like I said, there's a lot of different ways you can go about it that would suit a lot more people, and not make it so unfair. In terms of the ladder, I hear the ladder being topsy turvy or weird to look at, for the whole year. That makes me laugh, because I think people that say that are only people that tend to watch Australian rules football or something, because there's a lot of sports where
Mhm.
internationally, I mean, I'm a cricketing fan. The Sheffield Shield and the One Day Cup ladders are never really on par, in terms of games played. So, like, yeah, that's not
Yeah.
really an issue for me. But I mean, we're just continuing the pylon, so why not just add that to it as well?
Yeah. No, my sleep paralysis demon is a Premier League table where Liverpool are streets ahead of the competition, but then you look and see Manchester City have 3 games in hand. Like, that's
In
just
hand,
normal.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Games in hand, like, it's nothing foreign to those of us who watch, other sports and international
Yeah.
sports and stuff.
If baseball with their 162 games, a regular season, rainouts and all that
NBA
shit.
road trips,
Yeah.
like
You
some
just
teams
you
knocking off 3 games in 5 days and stuff, and yeah,
exactly. Yeah, you're often talking about in baseball, you're talking about, the AL East race and, the Yankees are 3.5 games behind the Red Sox, and I can imagine, like, someone who's only ever watched AFL being like, "What does half a fucking game mean?" But it just means it's just because they play 162 a year, and that's just what happens. Yeah, no, I've had a mild chuckle at the people being like, "Man, the ladder's so weird to look at after 5 rounds. That's what makes me angry." I'm like, "Who fucking cares? It's after 5 rounds."
that's the thing. That's what's tipped me over the edge.
It's like after 5 rounds, all that matters is where your team's at. And like if they're 2 and 3, then where they are in the ladder as opposed to where other teams are who's had a bye doesn't really matter. Your team at 2 and 3 is a concern. So that's all that you really need to be worrying about. And certainly when it comes to us, that's all I'll be worrying about after 5 games. I won't care if there's a team that's got one less game or more played. I'll be concerned if
Yeah,
we're, below the expectations we might have after these first 5 rounds, which to get it back on point, our first round game, of course, against North Melbourne this Sunday. We'll have a look at. I think we should start by looking at our team, and we can just have a quick look at North Melbourne afterwards. But obviously, first round of the year, it's exciting times for us. Before we look at the full lineup, let's just look at the major. Well, it's not really there's ins, so to speak, from a previous week's squad, but we have 3 debuts. One of them an AFL debut, 2 of them a club debut. Obviously,
hmm
probably the biggest story, Jack Watkins making his debut, which you called in your best 23 as well. He was someone I
you
floated
look
around in
good.
my mind, but I didn't think we would get there. But very, very excited. How are you feeling about that one? I mean, it's a great story.
Yeah, I'm wrapped for him. He like we said on Tuesday night show, he just worked bloody hard for it. And conspiracy theories about retaining Zach Butters aside, um, by all accounts, he deserves his spot. He's the AR McLean medalist from last year, and
Mhm.
he's had a good preseason after being picked on our list. So best of luck to him. There's not much more to say. I basically gave my thoughts on Tuesday. So yeah, just really keen for him to crack in and make a name for himself at AFL level in our setup.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. And I think we talked a lot about age profile of players at times on the squad, well, not the squad show, the best 23 the other day, and Watkins with his experience at the VFL and Sandful level, coming in at 25, he's got the miles in the body. There's a lot to love about kind of where he's at. Just in his kind of career trajectory. Yes, it's a late debut, but we've seen a lot of players successful over the years. What's his face from
Geelong
Geelong that
make a
won?
habit out of doing this every year. They'll find
Yeah,
someone who contributes.
absolutely. Yeah, so it's not like this can't be something that we're at the moment we're like, oh, if he's a good, performs his role well and plays his role, then we'll be pretty happy. But there's every chance there's a fairy tale story that he's actually a very, very integral part of the squad as well. So, and that's what we hope for when you bring a guy to start the season. So I'm really wrapped for him. It also means that I think it's interesting just looking at kind of some of the players that Carr has picked, that he's kind of putting his kind of standards in, like putting a line in the sand about his standards, and that those conspiracy theories about free passes or whatever from the Ken Hinkley era
Oh my
aside.
god!
Just
Every
that,
senior coach gets that blame.
yeah, exactly. It would be 5 weeks away from Jack Watkins being like having a free pass or something like
Golden
that.
pass, yeah.
Yeah. Golden bars, yeah, golden. But I like the squad makeup, which we'll look at a little bit more. But a couple more debuts for the club. Obviously, have already made their AFL debuts at previous stays in the AFL. But Jacob Ware, I think we were both pretty confident was going to make his debut,
Mhm.
and Corey Durden as well has been named on the bench as the name side is listed. But yeah, Jacob Ware named on the wing as well. So
Yeah,
um, yeah, really, really excited for both of them. But in particular, just Jacob Ware's preseason seems to have really impressed. Obviously, has impressed us, but has impressed the coaching group as well.
quite clearly. Another guy with miles in his legs. He's had experience in the system at a pretty decent football club. GWS have a pretty good name. And I think
Mhm.
one of their key characteristics is their workmanlike ethos that they've kind of garnered over their time in the AFL. So, look, another guy coming home. Excuse me, another guy coming home. Hopefully, that can bring the best out of him. We have a track record of doing that, obviously in a previous era. So, hopefully, that trend continues and he can contribute. And we've seen that he uses the ball fairly wisely. Uh, Being a winger, there'll probably be times where he falls out of it. There'll be times where he's required to action. So hopefully, when that time comes, we're on the better end of his disposal.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Durden making his debut as well, of course, on the bench. To add to what is a pretty handy group of kind of small forwards that we can rotate through, small to medium sized forwards. If you, well, Jason Horne-Francis can play it all, but yeah, it's a really intriguing lineup. I might just, before we get into some of the nuts and bolts about who's been picked where and a few of the other kind of issues around, or not issues, but things to talk about around the squad, I might just read it out quickly. From fullback, we've got Lockie Jones, Asava Radagalia, Todd Marshall. Halfback, Miles Bergman, Aaliyah, Kane Farrell. Across the centre, we've got Burgoyne, Rosie, and Ware. Half forward, Jason Horne-Francis, Georgiades, Berry. The full forward line is Darcy Byrne-Jones, Jack Whitlock, and Joe Richards. The followers, of course, Dante Vicentini has been picked as the sole ruck. Zach Butters and Willem Drew, his little feverish rovers around him. And on the interchange bench, we've mentioned Corey Durden already. Ewan McKinlay, Ollie Lord, Logan Evans, and Jack Watkins fills it out. Emergencies, Jackson Mead, Jack Lukosius, and Jordan Sweet. Some talent from previous seasons in the emergencies, but that kind of speaks to what I was talking about before. There is a few different issues at play there, but Mead has found himself on the outer at the start of the season. Jack Lukosius, of course, they're not sure his body's ready for the rigors of the AFL yet, which is a concern to me, being it's round one. It means his preseason just hasn't gone to plan. And of course, Jordan Sweet's just unlucky in what is a very, very tough battle for that number one ruck spot.
Yeah, look, in terms of Jackson Mead, I guess, who's he going to replace? I think I had him as a skeptical or cynical selection on the bench, but then we ended the show saying that it probably would be another midfielder, and you got that pick right in McKinlay, which, like I said, no qualms. He's seems like a great guy. A little bit more into his work as well, not just fresh out of high school type setup. He's had a full preseason, so all the best to him. Look, to be honest, with Lukosius, I just think the groin strain happened too close to round one. I don't know if it's much more complicated than that. Maybe it's my teal coloured glasses and glass half full perspective on things, but he seemed to be out of it, and then he seemed to be in contention. But judging by Josh Carr's press conference, yeah, I'm hoping and thinking that this is the kind of soft approach to hopefully make sure that his season at AFL level goes to plan, instead of rushing him back when we have a forward line that is more than capable coming up against the opponents that we are. And then Jordan Sweet, yeah, look, I had him as my first ruck. That was a romantic selection, even though all signs pointed to Dante, like we discussed, and that's how it worked out.
Yeah,
so
you were kind of doing the I'm picking Jordan Sweet, even though there's like the Looney Tunes characters with the lit up neon signs like Wile E. Coyote, like come here. It's Dante Vicentini, but you were like, I'm going with Jordan Sweet for the romantic. So you were very, very cognizant of the fact that it was likely to be Vicentini regardless.
And the Acme bomb blew up in my face.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel for Sweet, but it is, but it's again, this is a good place to be because Vicentini can't, has to put his best foot forward to hold that spot at this point as well. So healthy battle for that ruck spot is something that I'm actually really, really keen for. Ollie Lord gets his chance, obviously named on the bench, but he was kind of the one that was probably one of our main points of discussion. I'm okay with him getting a shot for sure. But really, really excited just to look at the forward line for a moment to see Jack Whitlock actually named as kind of a starting up forward is a really, really good place to be. Early on in his career, he's starting his second year at the club, having only made his debut late last year, and he's had a good preseason, and he finds himself being named at full forward with Mitch, kind of as the main tall forward battery with Mitch Georgiades. Like, man, imagine being Jack Whitlock right now. And then he gets to, looks at the guys either side of him as well as Smalls. He's going to have, a Joe Berry and a Burn Jones and Jason Horne-Francis, like a real mix of veterans and youth around him. Like Whitlock must just be pinching himself right now to think that he's starting round one of the season. I wonder for him if he thinks he's developed quicker than he may have even hoped.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, he's a very humble person, a young man, of course. He's had his fair share, well, not fair share. He's had his interviews across the preseason, and it does sound like he's put in a lot of work. Listed on full forward, like you mentioned, and team sheets taken with a grain of salt, as we're well aware of. But you mentioned something along the lines of, or the way I interpret it is just him just basically having a go, creating a contest, and that's all he would be required to do. We know he's capable of a nice contested mark due to his height and his footy smarts. But coming up against the likes of Charlie Comben or Griffin Logue, for example, Toby Pink, he's got a real opportunity to make an impact. And it was the small forwards on either side that made me think of that. Competing, bring it to ground at least, if not taking those contested marks, which we know he's capable of. He may, he's still got a young body. He's still slight of frame in the grand scheme of things, but I don't think there's anyone arguing his selection, and everyone's credited a fantastic preseason that has led to his selection in round one, which is phenomenal for him and his family.
Yeah. His brother who won't be playing, and shout out to Simon on Facebook for pointing that out, that North Melbourne has stolen that from us.
Come on.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure his family and obviously there might be some conflicted thoughts for his brother in the stands watching. But yeah, and just Ollie Lord being able to rotate through there, it's a big opportunity for Lord. That's probably the one thing I looked at is like Lukosius not being ready to go quite at the start of the season means that Ollie Lord gets a chance to put his kind of a best foot forward early as well, and make some hard decisions need to be made if once Lukosius is ready to go again. Because you think Lukosius does get brought back in, and if you've got all of those guys that are playing in reasonable form, then it'll make it really really tough. And again, a good position to be in. So I'm really excited to kind of see Lord, you know, go to work now that he has been selected, and he was one that we both kind of had on the fringe of our best 23 anyway. Even though we thought Lukosius might be picked as well, but yeah, I'm kind of excited to see that. And when you kind of half mentioned that back line of the Kangaroos, which you can just have a look at now and mention it while we're talking about our forwards. Toby Pink, Griffin Logue, Charlie Comben, and Finn Sullivan, Caleb Daniel named there as well, and
As a centre
debutant.
half back
Yeah, I
on the
saw that.
AFL website, anyway.
I actually looked. I was just like, wait, what? Is that, and Caleb Daniel, because his number's different at North Melbourne. I was like, no, that can't be the same one,
Yeah,
but it looks like
they've
him. But
kind
he's not
of
wearing a
they've kind
helmet.
of done it how you did your best 23s. They've done tools and then
Yeah,
smalls
exactly. Yeah,
on the
yeah.
team sheet.
Listen to the podcast. Shout out North Melbourne. And they've got a debutant in the back line there, at least name there, and Tom Ramirez. Probably butchered the pronunciation of that, but look, they've got capable like Griffin Logue, Comben, Ping, like they're all serviceable. Well, no, I don't mean that. I feel like that's a bit
Workman-like.
disrespectful. Yeah, workman like. They've been, because of the way they've played, they've often been under the pump over the past few years anyway. Some injury troubles for all of them in there as well. So that kind of they haven't had a good run at it, but they must, this is a backline that's gettable based on just more so
Mhm.
what they're going to do like what they can provide um, in the middle, in the battle in the middle. I think they're going to be under more pressure. Via just the midfield units, which we'll get to in a moment. But yeah, I think the likes of Whitlock and what he can do, his game intelligence, and Mitch Georgiades, I think is just ready to hit the ground running this year. And
Mhm.
then that talented group around them, like if Horne-Francis is taking his moments down there, Ollie Lord, of course, Corey Durden, like there's a lot of guys to rotate through that forward line, and different things we can mix up. We can change matchups. If we've done that before. If one defender's seeming like they're getting the handle on, if Whitlock's having some trouble, you can switch guys. There's a little bit of flexibility in how we've selected the side to take advantage of what I think is a back line that can, on their day, can be challenging. But I just don't think. I think the overwhelming pressure that will come from up the field will, and just the fact that pound for pound, our forward line should be better than that anyway. So um, I'm kind of excited to see them go to work, to be honest. Particularly Mitch Georgiades. I mean, we talked about him a bit last episode, but yeah, I think he's absolutely ready to rip into the side, and he must be. I think Mitch Georgiades, the way he is now. You mentioned him looking nice and thick in the promo shots for the Guernsey.
Mhm.
Just where he's at form wise, he's kind of ready to take over the competition, kind of stuff, and I think he probably looks at most backlines and licks his lips, to be honest, because I think he's just that kind of player that um, will see opportunity no matter what. Because particularly with the forwards around him, I think we actually will be able to open up the game more to allow Georgiades to have more opportunities, as well as the other forwards as well.
That's exactly right. He mentioned leading into last season that he wanted to be the man in the absence of Charlie Dixon, and he proved that he's more than capable of being the man. And yeah, let's not be coy. It's a backline that is gettable. But I
Mhm.
remember our first visit to Marvel Stadium last year against Essendon, and we went in with a lot of confidence, and we just looked flat
Mhm.
for most of the game. So that'll be the thing. You mentioned supply from up the field. Uh, it won't be for me. It won't be a matter of which defender is causing us grief. It wouldn't surprise me if Mitch Georgiades found himself with a couple of different defenders on the day,
Mhm.
yeah, provided that we are giving the right type of supply. And he's a hard matchup. Spoken about it a lot, particularly last year, obviously, because we haven't done that many episodes this year, Jamie. He just works. He works too hard for big defenders to keep up, and he is quite strong when he's matched up against more of the slight-framed defenders. So, it's all there for him. And yeah, you mentioned Ollie Lord coming off a bench. Not really contentious. Again, when you look at, when you listen or watch to Josh Carr's press conference, it was kind of, you just needed to read between the lines a little bit with Jack Lukosius, and then with the ruck situation and what he can do as a pinch hitter. He mentioned, not needing a second ruck and having people available who can pinch hit the ruck. So it made it kind of obvious. And like you said before, opportunity is there. And whether fans on the sidelines or nuffies on a podcast think you deserve to be there, you are there. So make an impact. He has had a good preseason. I don't want to overemphasize the good. He looks good himself physically, which you would expect. Another year.
His finishing was decent at the match sim trial thing I went to as well. Whatever, they just absolutely butchered what they could. It was match sim, black versus white, whatever they call that. Ward was finishing all right.
Red versus blue.
Yeah. He had a couple of goals. One from like 50 out, it was dead in front, but it was 50 out, which has often been something we've kind of, lamented, is his finishing of relatively simple, like, shanking one that just shouldn't be shanked. And he looked reasonably kind of confident and at ease with his action. So there was a few signs from that match sim that kind of, I went, okay, this is an Ollie Lord that might be a little bit more developed than of the previous iterations of the Ollie Lord experience. So there were signs in that sim that I was just like actually okay with where he was at. Again, I thought that like maybe he was going to be on the outer, but he's gotten his opportunity. And yeah, to your point about the ruck, he did take a lot of hit outs in the ruck. It was either Sweet and Vicentini against each other. I think might have been whether it was Whitlock and Lord taking some battles against each other as well. He was getting a lot, so you could tell that it was kind of that idea was there, that there was going to be some guys in the side that were, maybe they're not their focal role, obviously, but they're going to take some hit outs in the ruck as well and pinch hit. And he's certainly got the body and frame for it. And if he's trained and feels competent to go in there and take the load off Vicentini when he can, then yeah, that's probably the better way to go about it.
Yeah, I'm not expecting him to break any records, but the opportunity is there as a second or third forward. Make an impact. Like we said, it's a backline that's gettable. Charlie Comben had a good year last year after shifting back. Griffin Lowe, up and down, coming across from Fremantle, had his injury troubles, is a bit of a fiery character. So make an impact. Like I said, we've got the star in Mitch Georgiadis. He's going to take a lot of attention. And so is Jason Horne-Francis. If he's anywhere near goals, he commands attention.
Mm-hmm.
Make an impact. It's those star quality players. That's who we'll look to carry our forward line. But for the Joe Berries, for Joe Richards as well, and for Ollie Lord, Corey Durden, when he gets his opportunity, make an impact. Put the defense under pressure. It's round one. It's the perfect time to play your role. It's as simple and as boring as that. Mitch, get your 4 shots on goal. I dare say JHF will get 2 or 3. We just need everyone else to chip in around them and put some pressure on this defense, whether it be offensively or, if the ball's in their hands, defensively as well. Start that chain early so we're not leaking chains of possession, like cutting us up like we've seen in years recently.
Yes, yeah. I don't want to... PTSD will come back pretty quickly if we start seeing that happen again. But and a lot of that's going to come down to some of that pressure on like the high half forward areas going into the midfield and that group through the middle there. The likes of Willem Drew and Zach Butters and co through the middle. Rosie. We've obviously seen Bergman gets sorry, where am I finding Bergman?
He's on a halfback flank.
That's right.
He's,
I was
yeah.
flipping it. Yeah, yeah. I was just like I was looking for his
Again,
name.
grain of salt with the team sheet.
Yeah. So he will get a lot of CBAs in this game. Obviously, Rosie's been named in the middle.
Mhm.
He might drop back into the halfback. They might rotate through that there a little bit. Those two, a little bit horses for courses. See how the game's going. Is Bergman going to be a benefit? Does he go to someone and play that defensive, offensive midfield role that he kind of did a really good job of both against? I think he played against Carlton. He did a really good job against Cripps. He did obviously the one on Dawson in the showdown where he was able to still gather his 20 or so disposals, have some damaging impact, whilst also kind of nullifying the impact of a star midfielder. Whether there's going to be that run with role. I mean, do you see like a run with role here? I mean, if you just look at the team sheet, you've got Sheasel and Drew lined up against each other, but that's not always going to be the case. But he might be one of the main damaging. Obviously, Luke Davies-Uniacke is incredible as well, but I don't have that like big name. Well, Sheasel's probably the biggest one that can accumulate, get a lot of ball, but how much damage he can do in a side like that, I'm not sure. Do you see us having that kind of plan, or is it just going to be you try to run with us?
Yeah, just judging by Josh Carr's vibe and just the general vibe around the club heading into the season, I think they'll want
Vibe.
to. It's the vibes. It's Marbo. I think they'll just want to go toe to toe, see what it looks like, back ourselves. I mean, I think I called for Willem Drew to put the clamps on LDU last year, and then it didn't happen.
Mm.
Or maybe it was the year before. I was really eager for that. But yeah, my point is that I think they'll want to just back themselves with the midfield of Zach Butters, Willem Drew, who looks like he's coming into the season really in really good shape. Rosie rotating through, Bergman wanting to make a name for himself with clear air now in the season, and with some talent on either like on the periphery outside of that. Yeah, I mean their midfield has some people to focus on. I mean,
Hmm.
LDU speaks for himself, but Jai Simpkin, it'll be interesting to see how he goes about this season as a whole, just from an AFL fan point of view, not with the captaincy anymore. So now he has to
And
actually,
I'll-
earn
like,
his spot, so to speak.
how short are the odds that there's just going to be a horne-francis and Simpkin like nose to nose, and you're just wondering what the words between them are? Like,
Look, we may see a few of those. It was JHF and Tristan Cherry last year, so
yeah.
it could be anything if it's a Ruckman and JHF, but he may not see as much time around the ball as he has over the last couple of seasons.
Mhm.
But look, if anything, they might want to put someone on Zach Butters or Connor Rosie if when he's spending time around the stoppages. Um,
I
yeah,
think that's going to
we
be
need to
the
get to
interesting
work.
thing this year is the attention that Butters is going to get, because he looks like he's raring to go. He's obviously ripping form in the Origin game, ripping form in the Community Series game. We saw him start to get some tags here and there last year, to varying success. I know Geelong tagged him out of the game pretty well, but that was down at the Cattery where we rarely play well, and we were just kind of in all sorts of, anyway, as a club and as a team at that point.
Mm-hmm.
How we deal with that and how the new, but like he looks like he's raring to go. So that's probably more the question for teams, particularly teams that are going in as the underdogs like North Melbourne are, is like what they do to mitigate the damage that our platoon of players, because we're going into the season pretty fit in those lines. Obviously, Horne-Francis is building fitness and won't maybe play as much midfield time as maybe they would envision if he was fully fit. But he's still there and an option to run, throw in and out here and there maybe. But then Butters in ripping fitness. Rosie Bergman has had his issues in preseason, but he's playing like we're in a reasonable spot compared to last year where we started the season without Butters even in the side and already seemed to be dealing with a few injuries last year. Um, there's a lot of options for us to kind of, and I just don't see. I mean, clearly, I don't see this midfield as a match for ours, and that's where I kind of get the confidence with our forward line to be able to deal with their back line. Is that there's going to be a wealth of opportunity coming forward, and from our midfield domination to allow the forwards to go to work. And I expect Butters to be having a big game, and Rosie seems to. I think Rosie just has a connection with Carr and what they kind of envision from their. I mean, they've got a long history in Rosie's original position and what he's developed over the last few years as well. I think there's just confidence. I think you mentioned Drew as well. I think Drew's just going into the year with renewed confidence. Just as I read the tea leaves about Drew, so there's like this. There's a freshness about a few of these players that we have loved for 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years now. But had in different years. Well, some of them, Butters was great last year. Rosie had a great year last year off halfback. Drew was an indifferent one. Bergman had his big moments, but then, depending on where we used him, all of these guys seem to be, but particularly Drew, I'm really excited for to have a bounce back year. And I think it's going to start in earnest in this one for Drew alongside the more bona fide stars.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Zach Butters not starting last year, and Willem Drew has spoken about his interrupted preseason, which he attributes to the kind of malaise he appeared to be in for big parts of last season. So, yeah, it's good that it's good that we're healthy. I mean, this was a midfield last year that we thought would carry us into the finals, and like, to be fair to North Melbourne, when we played them at Adelaide Oval, they brought it. They brought the effort, and we had to match them. We thought we were going to run away with it.
We got up by like 5 goals and then decided to trip over our dicks for another quarter after that. And then there was some umpiring things as well. I remember that one being.
It was one of the worst umpired games. Yeah, I remember reviewing that game. I remember the frustration of being there. I can't remember the specifics of it all, but yeah, it was one of those reviews where we had to give the umpires a serve. I do remember that. But look, at the end of the day, we trip over our own dicks, as you say. North Melbourne brought the effort that got them there and thereabouts, and we had to hold them off in the end.
Right until the last, did we get like by like 9 or 10 points with a minute or so to go, and then but it was really late that we did. I don't think I felt comfortable at all for the entire second half. So
it was one of those games. Yeah, we won by 9 points, and yeah, it was one of those games where it's just like, just finish this and let me go home type of thing. But yeah, a new year. You mentioned, will they put someone on Zach? Every year that teams try that, I think it just adds he becomes more capable of wearing the tagger down. You know what I mean? He gets more experience. He seems to be handling it better year on year because people have been trying it for a few years now. And apart from Oisin Mullen, like you said, versus Geelong last year, he's dealt with them pretty bloody well in recent times. So he just took the piss against West Coast. He looks, you mentioned he'll probably have a generational year. Yeah, what better way to start that than playing North Melbourne this weekend?
Yeah, Z Butters, 3 votes is what I'm expecting out of this week.
Yeah, but Stewie Dew as the midfield coach, there's just with this fresh look to everything, that's what I'm interested too. Like, obviously, I think we can win. Looking at the teams on paper, you can get ahead of yourself a little bit, but I'm also intrigued to see how their preseason carries over into the real stuff. We mentioned that some of the connection looked really good against West Coast in that preseason game, and the use of the football through the midfield. But when 4 points is on the line, and there's a bit more pressure dialed in, I'm looking forward to that too. And hopefully, like heading into season 2025, I hope the midfield can carry that load and really put this game beyond doubt. That's what I'm hoping for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's you kind of want to get that dominating performance that makes you feel comfortable. Like not this year's Liverpool side, but last year's Liverpool side when they went 1-0 up or 2-0 up. I was just like, okay, they're fine. Whereas this year, it's like they're up 3-0, and I'm like, I hate my life because they're going to lose it somehow. Like I want
More like
the
3-0
midfield.
down in the first
Yeah.
half and then have to come back in the second half.
Uh, but like you want to have that. There's a vibe that comes with a side that's just humming week to week. Yeah, that doesn't mean they're going to win every week, but you just have like an underlying confidence in their ability to figure things out, and you kind of want to start building that kind of that trust and quiet domination of games and metronome style. I mean, exciting, but like have a like a an ability to just pummel a team into submission via just consistency in your efforts and your application to the game plan, and just be better, like be better between the lines, and make them just have to kind of submit to the fact that you're better. Before we get to the backline, by the way, I mean, obviously some interesting things there with what, like how we kind of talked about how the side might line up, more or less maybe what we thought, but Josh Carr's mentioned that he will be coaching from the bench,
Hmm.
modern AFL things and all that. But I don't know if there's much more to say about it, but I find it interesting and I find it fun. I think he just says that that's the way he likes to see the game. And I also find it interesting. He said that he also has a lot of trust in the guys up in the box, that what they can see from up there, that they can communicate that down to him. And he can do his best work from the bench. His guys, that his other coaches, assistant coaches, will be up in the box seeing there, and kind of that's, I think now Hinkley figured it out in the end as well, and a lot of coaches do, if they do have that implicit trust in their assistant coaches, is like they're the ones that actually have to see the patterns and all that. On the game day, the head coach is more about, like, there's a lot of stuff that I think does benefit the head coach being down on in the box, on the bench, while his assistant coaches that are working out the overall things are up in the box. I like it, and I like, we've spoken already about liking the coaching group that's been put together. Obviously, some sentimental value in some of those as well, but yeah, I kind of like the way he spoke about it and how he's reasoned it out that he's going to be coaching from the bench.
Yeah, I think the decision is made much easier having a former AFL senior coach in Stuart Dew as your senior
Yeah.
assistant. At that on game day, that may prove invaluable as an acquisition to our coaching group. And like you mentioned with Hinkley figuring out a few things and the way that he maintains his relationships with players, or maintained his relationships with the players over the years that he was at Port Adelaide. You know, Josh Carr has an ethos and a message that he wants to get across to all of the players playing for him at Port
Mm,
Adelaide. But as well as that, with a new system, away journey. I mean, he'll probably do this at home games by the looks of things, but also a calming factor as well.
hmm
It's a youthful group of players. You know, heads may be spinning early into the season. People may be wanting to overreach at times.
hmm
And as a senior coach in his first game for points, premiership points, look, there is a chance that maybe his head's spinning a little bit. The fact of the matter is, I don't necessarily think that will be the case. Josh Carr looks like a fairly cool, calm, and collected character. He speaks really well in his press conferences that he's done,
there's
and
some irony in that, isn't it? After what we saw in it as a player, as much as we loved it, it's
yeah,
just
it is a bit ironic, but
yeah.
the way that he carries himself and his communication seems very level-headed. So, yeah,
Mhm,
hopefully that's what it's all about. It's getting a message across, calming some of the nerves for some of our younger players, some of our newer players, and integrating them into our system. And like I said, having Stuart Dew up in the box, overseeing that group of coaches and assistant coaches who do have fairly good chops in the
mhm,
coaching game. These aren't all untried people and untapped resources like Darren Reeves has won premierships at SANFL level.
yeah.
He may not have AFL experience, but he knows what he's looking for as a line coach. That's for sure. We could go through the coaching group again, but yeah. And look, and I think just to finish off on that point, I think he said that it may not always be the case, and he may go back up to the box if he feels it necessary. But
Mm.
see how it goes, and see what works for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the main thing is you don't see the, well, I probably see it from some coaches still, but there's that going away from the old tradition of, like, seeing a player go to the bench that's just done something wrong and that a heavy sigh and picking up the phone to get blasted like a "Fuck you, Will," like Rocket Eat kind of fucking thing, like,
There's a certain form of nostalgia that goes along with that, though.
yeah. Oh, yeah,
It's
there
just
is.
funny.
Choco in the box in 2004 just screaming at the phone and slamming it because it's not working. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how that develops, but it does kind of show that he's just, some of the lessons he's learned over the journey, and the fact that there has been something of a development in modern AFL coaching, and it's not like it's relegated to just the new coaches. I mean, Chris Fagan, as one of the older statesmen in AFL coaching, has done it a lot as well. So, just something that I think as coaching groups have developed, and the kind of the way coaching groups as a whole have developed, is they've realised that you can have that you trust in the guys up in the box and stuff. So it is we'll be watch and see and how it develops. But I'm kind of excited to see him in his first game on the bench and kind of taking it in for him and the experience. I think it'd be really cool as well. So.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, as far as we're talking about the squad itself, it is obviously really exciting. I mean, if it was anyone coming in to coach their first game at Port Adelaide, it would be really exciting for us as Port fans to be entering that new era. But the fact that it's Josh Carr coming in, I mean, personally for me, means a lot. He was a favourite of mine as a kid, and yeah, no, it's really, really exciting to kind of be celebrating that this weekend as well as the debutants and the fact that just Port Adelaide footy's back. So.
Hmm.
Really excited for that. The back line, another one that you called, and we discussed this at length, and I think it's some of the thinking from the coaches has been around experience versus not wanting to run someone's legs off too early. But Asava Radicalea has gotten the start down back, despite maybe not playing as much, and Harry Ram having taken the lion's share of play in the preseason. But Radicalea, and as we discussed, I kind of thought maybe we'd be going Ram, but I wasn't 100% sure on Radically where he was fitness wise. But I think to your point that you made well the other day, Radically played really, really well last year, out of his skin at times, best in the comp for a patch there as far as his intercept play as a defender.
Hmm.
He didn't deserve to lose his spot exactly. So he gets a chance to start the season and hopefully continue how he kind of left off at the best parts of last year.
Absolutely. I mean, I had him in my verse 23. That was a salient point you raised, though, about fitness and if that would play a part. But similar to my sentiments about Lukosius in our best 23 chat, if he's fit, he just plays. Don't understand the conjecture. And I mean, even Mark Bickley did his best 23 on SENSA the other day, and he was referencing things or characteristics about Asava from like 2024 and just essentially either ignored or just couldn't recall any of the good work that Asava did last year. And when he had his spot on the afternoon show, Brad Corns was quick to remind Bix of some of the tasks that Asava was trusted with last year and some of the output that we got from him, which was very, very good at times. I mean, like you mentioned, his intercept marking. I think I made the point in somewhere in last year's shows about with Charlie Dixon going out and the lack of contested marks that we may find. But then in another part of the ground, it was the Asava Radicalea that was putting his name up for leading contested marking when he
Mhm.
was afforded the opportunity to play, of course. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like we spoke about briefly, they've got Nick Larkey, who I think, just speaking about Chad Corns, Larkey is who he thinks that Radicalia will match up on, but there is that factor of Jack Darling again in the twilight of his career, but being that bigger body. So there may be some. And look, defenders do tend to rotate at intervals throughout the game, depending on rotations and what's going on as well. So I dare say we'll see Aaliyah and Radicalia probably tag team between the two. I guess, no, yeah, not much more to say about Sav. I just hope, maybe there'll be some cobwebs early, but hopefully he's done his work on the track and he can get into the game quite quickly, and plant his flag. I guess the big question mark will be about how Todd Marshall performs in a game for premiership points. Bright lights of Marvel Stadium football.
Yeah.
We want to see him perform. They've obviously put a lot of work into him. He's committed to that position on the ground. So we want to see what it looks like in real time.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair for him, not that I expect it to be, it's not, again, there's no disrespect to North Melbourne. It's not going to be easy. It's a game of AFL football, and North Melbourne come in with a fairly handy forward line, but it's not like we're going up against one of the best forward lines in the competition or anything. Competition, like it gives him a little bit of a chance to get his legs under him. With Asava and Aaliyah there as a fairly good battery that played very, very good football together last year, and he can kind of peel off of them. And I just think Marshall's experienced. It's like, it would be different if it was like a draft D defender coming in, but he's a very, very seasoned player. He's the bang at the kind of pace of the game while his time out, 548 days between games or whatever. Maybe that, I think that's probably the bigger issue is just him getting up to game speed again. I think the positional play will come to him, and it has been coming to him already in preseason. I think it's just getting the speed up and actually playing, kind of getting through that initial kind of, whether there's any nerves that come with getting back playing, nerves about his body. I don't think he's played a fair bit of preseason footy, so I think he's probably going to have tested the body out pretty well already, which we've seen in some of the preseason games. But just maybe just that little bit of like, I'm actually playing AFL footy again. I'm in a new position. I think the first 5-10 minutes, the first few contests down there for Marshall will be important. Get through those, kind of start getting
early intercept mark will be nice. That'll certainly calm the nerves.
Yeah, I think that'll get
much like Asava, to be honest. So hopefully they don't go for the same mark.
Yeah, we don't need to see any early clashes that kind of reminiscent of some of those shockers that we saw in the Hinkley eras. Talk, boys, talk. Yeah, the Lear and Radicaleer is kind of the battery, and Marshall is there, a third tall down there. And then you've got, Lockie Jones can close space and play big as well. Even though, even as a more medium-sized defender, maybe is how he's utilised and prototyped, but he can play big and spoil and kind of be the help defender as well. And obviously you've got the runners off of that as well. Bergman, we know if he's Bergman or Rosie, whoever's rotating back through there, both can intercept mark and play big and mark big as well. Obviously not contest with a leading forward, but they will play their role there as well. So I think outside of Larkey, Jack Darling, I don't know, call it disrespect. He's a fading talent in the league. And I'm just probably going to come back to bite me. But I Larkey's the big one to worry about as far as it's all. Like, there's not too much. It's not like we're coming up against a Jeremy Cameron, Tom Hawkins, battery or anything like that.
Larkey is accurate. He is a very accurate kick, typically, though. So it doesn't take a lot.
When we played him last year, though, I feel like he had like
he had an off year for most of the year last year. I mean, we were chatting pre-pod. He only kicked 41 goals, but look, by and large, for his career so far, he's been a fairly accurate kick, which means he doesn't need a lot of chances to make an impact. We've spoken about the tools, but below that are a couple of handy smalls in Paul Curtis and Cameron Zurhaar. I mean, I just mentioned that Nick Larkey kicked 41 goals, but Curtis and Zurhaar both kicked 38, with Darling on 24 being their top 4 goal kickers. So that's where you mentioned Lockie Jones before. He's going to have his work cut out for him. I think he'll probably... Zurhaar's a bit of a... I was going to say Jones on Curtis, because Curtis seems to be that riser in talent. So I was going to say Lockie Jones, but Cameron Zurhaar does have that kind of bigger build for a small forward. So it'll be interesting to see who matches up on who. Again, modern football, everyone kind of gets their turn in a way. But big game for Lachie Jones in that regard, because North will be relying on their forward pack. Clearly, that they want to get their goals from whoever they can. And Paul Curtis did have a good season last year. That's without doubt. Unfortunately, knocked one of our players out last year in the game that we played them. Josh Sinnott was actually, which is quite topical, unfortunately for him with today's news. But again, I don't want to. We can't just take them for granted. A bit like the midfield chat, a bit like everything overall. We've got to keep our noses clean, stick to structure. But if we're not intercept marking it, we need to make sure we're covering those smalls, because they clearly are damaging their reputation preseason.
Yeah. This is a side, maybe devoid of like a lot of proper A grade talent at this point, but like they're still like there's a lot of very, very good players there. Paul Curtis was. Did he make All Australian? Was borderline. I think there's maybe at least chat.
I don't think he did.
It.
I think that was one of the more contentious decisions in the end.
But yeah, you're talking about a player that could have been. It was certainly probably in the 40 then.
I think he made the second team.
Yeah, and then you've got we haven't even talked about the interchange bench. They've got Zane Dersma there, who's a bit of an enigma for North Melbourne his first few years, but he's showing flashes of talent, and we know the Dersma family is quite loaded with talent. So and he's then Luke Parker's on the bench as another veteran, McDonald and McKercher as well. So they've got a fairly. It's just a lot of very, very good serviceable. I don't know what I'm trying to find words that are both complementary but don't oversell what they can do. Like, we are a better side across the board, but
I believe so.
Like you said, keep your noses clean is what you've got to do, and not because sometimes what we did have done in previous years is when in these kind of games we kind of maybe believe our own hype going into it a little bit too much. Whereas you've actually just got to do the work. Like the good AFL sides go in as the better side and make their exert that influence as the better side, and sometimes we'd play down to that. And so that's kind of the test ahead of us in this first game in the Josh Carr era is to do the
not
work.
Be complacent. Yeah. I mean, like North Melbourne being anchored to the bottom of the ladder for the last few years, they're chock full of talent, and at some point, whether it's under Alistair Clarkson or not, like it all has to come together, surely. I mean, you look around the field and you've got high draft picks galore but that's balanced with some workman-like figures who don't typically put their names up in lights. But regardless, they need to do better to fix their perception and show that they have progressed. So our home game in round one,
I'm
still expecting them. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where complacency can really shoot you in the arse. If that were to be us, I agree with you 100% that it looks like we have the better team, even with some of the new players and less experienced players. But excuse me. Complacency showed us that it could be closer than we think, or we could come in next week and be celebrating a big win. Desperately hope we're not reviewing a loss first up, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you feeling about kind of I guess if you had to put a line on it and an expectation, a baseline of what you expect, and then what you hope, and we kind of did this a bit last year, like kind of like where we at the baseline of what we expect, and then maybe what we realistically do. Where are you thinking a win, the kind of winning margin could be?
So we're tipping a win then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Down for it. Yeah.
Look, I'm going to go fairly conservative to begin with because there is a lot of unknown, to be fair. But a metric that we've used fairly regularly over our journey is how many goals per quarter better do we think we're going to be? And look, a fairly conservative mind would say 1 goal a quarter, and that's still a 4-goal win. So
yeah,
I know Buddy has tipped us to win by 60 plus. Maybe that's just because his podcast is sponsored by a betting agency. I don't actually know that. I'm just assuming that because, yeah, he's gone Port by 60 plus, but I'm not going to be anywhere near that confident. The
Mm.
round one nerves are beginning to flutter on this Friday night that we're recording. So I think 1 goal a quarter is against a North Melbourne team who should be improving at this point in their timeline at home
Mm.
for them. Just make a good start. No injuries. Do the work. Wake up early. Do the work, as another Corns would say. Yeah, come away with a comfortable win, with something good to talk about.
I think that's the most important thing is just to do the work and actually set the standard for for Josh Carr and the leaders that are on the field taking his message forward as well. Like Josh Carr can only do so much as far as a coach goes. We've got to see as fans and as players, we want to see that the players have kind of listened to the message in the off season, understand what the expectation is, game plan, all those things, put their best foot forward and give us kind of a good taste. And North Melbourne, hopefully for North Melbourne fans, hopefully for us, they're not up to scratch. But North Melbourne fans will be hoping they're up for a decent battle, and that's what we should be expecting. And then hope if we don't have a good battle and we just roll over them, then even better. But what we should be expecting is to go in and have a battle and have to work hard for it. And hopefully we work hard and can still get a good result and beat a side that made us work. But if we can beat a
We
side that
work
makes us
hard.
work,
We play hard.
you want to come out of a game happy that they beat a side, that were playing good footy. That's kind of what I want as well, is like to see, there's beating bad sides, but there's beating sides that are actually testing you and still winning well. So I'm going to go a little bit. I think we can, be 1.5 goals a game better. So, whether it be in the, 6 to 8 goal range, that's kind of where I'm hoping a win comes from based on what I want to see out of this side and kind of plant a flag in the ground for the year going forward. But if North Melbourne come out and they're actually playing really, really good football and we can still win by 4 goals to your prediction, then that would be really great too. I just want to see a win ultimately, even if it's Carlton fans last night, had a win that felt like a loss. If it ends up that kind of game, at least if it's 4 points at the end of it, then all the better. But I do hope we can come out and kind of make a marker in the season about what the expectations and understanding of the Josh Carr, early doors Josh Carr era is about, and if we can be showing that kind of belief and understanding from the players into what the Josh Carr is putting on the ground, then that'd be a good sign early for what we're not going into this season expecting premierships. We want to see early signs of what's being
Yeah,
understood and expected. And if this game can show that, then that'll be great to see that very, very early.
I agree. I mean, early season is a bit of an enigma. The first
You're a big
month,
believer in points on the board early, though. You talk about it
it
all the
makes a
time.
huge difference. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, so many weird and wonderful things have happened in early rounds of a football season because everyone's trying new things. It's autumn football,
Mhm.
so it is generally more open and free flowing. I mean, we're playing under the lid, but but on top of that, snatch some 4 points. I mean, snatch quote unquote 4 points on this away trip, and then we've got a couple of home games against some beatable
Mhm.
opposition too. So just start off well and build some momentum early because you never know what can happen. I've been quite bullish on us overall. I don't expect us to win the premiership this year. If I need to kind of say that after some of the comments that I've made in relation to our team and our list heading into the season, but I'm still expecting a pretty entertaining season that puts us there and thereabouts. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the excitement, and I'm hoping that we can play a brand of football that us as Port Adelaide fans are all proud of. Probably with some room for improvement, being an early, the first game of the year.
Mhm.
Um, but like I said, I'd hate to be reviewing a loss, considering the two teams that are named.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The World War II analogies will come out early if we have to be reviewing a loss again on Tuesday evenings.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah, I had to play therapist a bit too often last year for my liking, so I'd rather just be waxing lyrical about Port Adelaide a bit more this season.
yes, yeah. It would be nice to get back to those 2024 episodes and with the lots of joy
A lot of
rather
tangents
than
and movie references.
yeah rather than just like, oh, it's another week in hell. But yeah,
Look,
no,
here's some
I do.
perspective.
No, we're looking forward to it, and I think based on that, I think we can both reasonably say that we are confident we can get a win, but not without it is early season AFL, so it is a kind of a unique time of year where everyone is expecting to play finals at this point of the year. Because there's always a couple of teams that'll pop up and surprise people, and every team that's been down the
Always.
bottom for a few years is hoping to be that team. So, and the Kangaroos fans will certainly be expecting that or hoping for that, and we have to be wary of it and treat them with a due respect, but also have a little bit of confidence in ourselves that we are the better side and go out and kind of exert that dominance. So, looking forward to it. Can't wait to get into it with you all. I will be recording our review on Tuesday evening, whatever may happen on Sunday. The review will happen on Tuesday evening. As those who have listened for a long time know, we turn up no matter what. Particularly last year, we were still here every week in varying stages of insanity. So, yeah, no, we look forward to seeing you guys here on Tuesday evening. If you have any thoughts on the match, feel free to either get in touch on the socials during the match, after the match, whatever it may be, to pop your opinions in for us to talk about on the podcast on Tuesday. You can also, obviously, the socials, whether it be on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever your proclivities may be in that aspect, feel free to get in touch with us there. Alternatively, you can shoot an email to the creed1870 at gmail.com. That is the creed 1870 at gmail.com to give us your thoughts. What are your thoughts? I don't need any shirtless walk and talk
No,
sent through, but
yeah,
if
yeah,
that
exactly.
is your proclivity, as long as that's fine. I'll suffer through it. But whatever your thoughts may be, pop them through.
God.
I might have set myself up for some terrible content coming through. Have to dial up the email blockers. But yeah, no, get in touch with us about your thoughts on the game, and we'll keep in touch throughout as well. Anything else from you, Jamie, tonight?
Nothing else from me. Calm the power.
Carla Pera.